Hey, Adam,
Geez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they called bumpers, Gary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed 2 little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Talk, a weekly podcast here at Idaho State University's Continuing Education and Workforce Training. I am one of your co-hosts, as always, Paul Dickey, the Video Instruction Manager and Apprenticeship Coordinator here at SWEET. And as always, joining us is Raylyn Price, our Interim Director. Raylyn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's kind of nice to be back into the office. We had a long weekend, an unexpected long weekend. We've had Snowmageddon here in in Pocatello and the surrounding areas, and I just feel like March is living up to its name. You know, March comes in like a lion. I'm just hoping it goes out like a lamb.
So again, I know I keep harping on this, Raylyn, but I'm from New England. You ain't seen nothing.
I know. This is true. That's right. You're kind of, yesterday you were like, why is there even a snow day, right?
Why is there a snow day? No, actually for, I've been living here now almost 20 years. Do you believe that? I've been living here almost 20 years now. And this has been like one of those worst snowstorms I've seen. So yeah, it was pretty bad out there yesterday.
Yeah, this is true.
So also joining us is Angie Wilhelm, our marketing director. Angie, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. It was a pretty bad snowstorm. For those of you who aren't in Southeast Idaho, we didn't get an unreasonably amount of snow. We only got about 9 inches of snow in some of our areas. However, that came with a record amount of precipitation. So power lines were coming down, tree limbs were coming down, tens of thousands of people without power. It was
one of them was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did, only for 4 hours. I know some people were out of power. The longest I'd heard is 33 hours. But joining us today, we'll start into what we're actually here for. Joining us today, as many of you know, we've been doing a series on Idaho State University student clubs. And with us today is Eris Kane with a novel bunch book club at Idaho State University. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you?
Hi, my name is Eris Kane. I'm in my final year, or my final semester of my senior year. So I'm graduating in May, which is super exciting. I'm the president of the Novel Bunch Book Club, and we just recently began this year. So
that's awesome.
Really?
Oh, good. So were you key in starting this club?
Yes. So originally at the end of the summer, this last summer, Snapchat has these kind of cohesive stories for everybody graduating in the same year. And a couple people had posted their interest in having a book club. So myself and one other student, who's also now part of the faculty, decided to get together and put together a little book club with all these people who had shown any interest in it. And it started with just a little group chat, and it got big enough that we decided to make it an official club.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's neat.
So where did you get the title? Where did the title come from?
I really like puns. So I was kind of just brainstorming ideas. And I thought it was funny. And my co-president, I believe, also thought it was funny. So we just decided to settle on that.
Oh, okay. So Iris, I really have to ask, being in college and having the workload of a college student, why did you decide that I'd like to take on reading a book?
Um, well, I guess it's fair to say that I'm a visual media major with an art minor. So it's not super work intensive. It is, but not reading heavy or writing heavy or anything. And as long as I can remember, reading has always been a really nice escape from the stresses of everyday life for me. My favorite genre is adventure and fantasy, kind of.
Oh.
So it's always been a nice break. And I guess a lot of other people feel that way, but it's kind of become difficult since we are in college and everybody has so much extra work that they have to do. And they have all these academic books that they have to read that they don't get a whole lot of time for personal reading. So I wanted to make a space where we could get together and take time out of our week to actually read.
And since you are in a book club and, part of the club is taking that time, do you find you're actually getting books read?
I think so. So since we do have such a large number of members, we had originally wanted to do a book of the month type thing, like you would assume from book clubs. But we have almost 95 members.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we started off with. Of course, with the semester and classes and everything, not everybody can make it to every meeting, which is understandable. But we do have that amount of members, and we have at least 20 to 30 that can attend meetings and that are active within the group chats. So we couldn't manage to get one book of the month because you would need 90 copies.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
even up to 30 copies of one book.
Wow.
And that's not something we thought was feasible. So we do book swaps instead, which is really fun because you get to see what other people are interested in and kind of take a step out of your own box. And I've actually found some books that I normally wouldn't have read that have been really incredible.
So what's your favorite that you've read so far?
I think probably one of the book swaps we did, I got the book Archer's Voice. Can't think of who the author of that is right now, but it's essentially about a girl who moves to this little town. I think somewhere in New England, actually.
Boston.
And she is trying to get away from the big city. And I can't give out any spoilers, but she meets this other resident of the town who's kind of an outcast because he's mute. And it's just their story.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really interesting.
So, Iris, how does the book swap work? How do you get the books? How do you determine and then swap the books? Is it, explain the process to me. I'm kind of really interested in how the process works.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had originally been brainstorming what we could do. And at one of our meetings, we decided that everybody would bring in one of their favorite books or one of the books that they thought other people needed to read just once in their life. And they would bring in the book, bring in a little note on the book or somewhere within the first couple cover pages that kind of gave a little rundown of a summary, any warnings or anything that you would need, and their name, and then whether or not they're comfortable with people annotating the book. And then we kind of did like a little raffle, which was really fun, going around having everybody explain their book and then people would bid on it. And then, yeah, we each took it home, had about a month and a half. With winter break coming up, we had a little bit more, like a month and a half. And then ended up bringing them back at the next meeting and discussing the topics and what we liked in each book and what really stuck out to us and the themes.
Wow. So
And
how
then-
often, go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul. No, you go ahead.
Oh, so how often does your club meet?
We meet about once a month.
Once a month.
We thought that that was the most manageable with the schedules everybody has. So a lot of our members are in STEM, and I know that they have really heavy workloads.
So now,
So-
if you
Oh,
so if you had to recommend a book that you've brought that you read for our listeners, what would that be?
Ooh, there's so many. I think my favorite series is either the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas or by the same author, Throne of Glass.
hmm.
They're really good entry fantasy books. I think Court of Thorns and Roses is probably the best entry level book because it's a series.
Hmm.
It's manageable, whereas Throne of Glass has a lot of world building, and it's, I think, 8 books.
Oh,
So it takes a lot to get into.
See, that's the one problem with some fantasy series is it's not a dip of the toe, it's a dive in.
Mm-hmm.
And so especially if you're a student, I mean, does some people like get intimidated with, oh, if I read this book, then I'm stuck with reading the other books, and that's a gigantic commitment while I've already have so much on my plate.
Yeah, exactly. There are some series that are really difficult to get into. That would be kind of a huge dive. And that's why I would suggest one of her series, because it is a lot more manageable. It's a lot more slow pace, and the first book is kind of a story all on its own, so it doesn't end on a huge cliffhanger where you could take your time to get into the second book, but it's also an easy enough read that you can get through it pretty quickly, and it makes you want to read the second one, so it's not a huge push.
hmm.
Now, Eris, you explained that you have a meeting, you bring a book, and basically you're trying to sell the book on the other members. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you said they bid. What are they bidding?
Just like a hand raise, and then if there's multiple people who want the same book, they would do like rock, paper, scissors for it.
Okay, all right.
We're not bidding anything real.
So how many times have you done that with the
Um,
actual bidding for the books?
So like I said, we did just start this year.
Oh, okay.
And it took a little while to get into a real swing of things because I've never done this before, and neither had any of my club officers. So we've only done the book swap once,
Mhm.
and then we've brought them back over the last 2 meetings, and then most recent meeting we did bookmarks. So
Okay.
it's every meeting,
Okay.
but we'll get into it a little more.
So what are bookmarks?
Like just homemaking bookmarks to keep your
Oh, okay, all right. So you're swapping bookmarks.
Just
Okay.
a real bookmark.
A real bookmark. I thought it was like a term for like exchanging ideas of the books.
No, just DIYing bookmarks with collage paper and stuff.
So do you feel having the regular meetings after you've done the book swap keeps people on track of at least progressing in the book?
I think so. I think that it's good that we only have a meeting once a month because our club is supposed to be for people who read voraciously and people who this is the first book they've ever read.
Really?
So I think most people, because we did put a cap on it for shorter chapter books, instead of there are some books that are over 1,000 pages. So we figured that within a month, everybody could get through one book within that time period. But getting together the next month and being able to discuss the book helped us keep on track and keep it like fresh in our minds.
I think it's such an interesting idea to swap books, right? Because there's so many genres. I think sometimes we can pigeonhole ourselves into a particular genre or an author that we really, really like, and then we just keep going back to that. So I think that's such an interesting idea to swap books with people who may have a totally different genre than what you like.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have trouble getting out of my own genre. because pretty much all I read is fantasy, and I really enjoyed getting to read something that was a little more current and realistic. That's not something I would have read normally.
So, Eris, you mentioned that one of your members is a former student, but now is faculty. So is faculty welcome in the book club as well?
I don't believe that they can hold officer titles, but our faculty member is our advisor. So it just so happened that one of the people who helped me start it soon after got a job with the college so that she could become our advisor.
Excellent, excellent.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was just really good timing.
So, are you still looking for members? And if so, how would someone get a hold of you if they were interested in joining?
Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely always open for new members. Especially at the moment, we are looking for members who would be comfortable taking on leadership roles since most of us are graduating this semester. So we're going to be out most of our leadership roles. Just kind of advertising there. But they can get a hold of me through my email. It's the 4x4 KANEKARO@isu.edu. Or we also have an Instagram for the book club that they could also reach out to, which is a novel bunch and then _ book club.
I love that name.
I love
Yeah. Where do you guys meet? Do you meet in the library or do you meet somewhere else on campus?
So we change it up every meeting because we haven't found one place that we can consistently hold our meetings. We've held them at the sub. Our most recent one was at Marshall's Library. We've also been talking to some bookstores and coffee shops where we can also hold them. Our first meeting we actually held outside on the sub, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
But maybe once it warms up a little bit.
Now, I have a question. If there's any student who, maybe didn't grow up as a prolific reader or may want to get back into reading, but they're intimidated by it, what would your advice to them be?
I think my advice would be that it's a little bit of a leap of faith, but there's also so many books that are so easy to start out with and will just grab you from the first pages and you won't even realize you're through the book by the time you're done. It comes so quickly. So I think my main piece of advice would just be to go for it. Find friends that enjoy reading, because I know that that's sometimes a big deterrent is you're not in an area where you would read for pleasure a lot. And some people, especially if you're first getting out of high school in your freshman year, reading's not really seen as cool, when you're 17, 18. So if you're just starting out, I would find friends that enjoy reading. Join a book club, start with something small, something that really interests you.
Well, we are running a little bit short on time. So we'll need Paul, do you have another question before I start wrapping up?
One last question for Eris. And, as a reader, we all know this one. What was the book that made you a reader?
Oh, gosh. My book. Oh, this is kind of nostalgic. My book was The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein.
Oh, really?
That was my favorite book growing up. I grew up on, my dad's in the military, so I grew up moving around constantly, but every single library had a giving tree. And my dad would always read it to me. And so that was just something that it was my favorite. I could go back to it again and again. I could go back to it right now and still enjoy the story, and I enjoy the moral. So that's definitely my book.
Excellent, excellent. See, I knew you'd have an answer.
That'd be cool.
That's such a great answer too, because it's a book that you can get into very, very young, right? That you can grow up as a reader with. So thank you so much for being our guest. If you would like to reach out to Eris a little bit more about the book club, her email, as she had stated before, is kanekaro@isu.edu. Paul, can you take it away for us?
I can wrap us up. So if anyone is interested in our offerings here at Continuing Education Workforce Training, you can visit our website at cetrain.isu.edu, or you can give us an email at cetrain@isu.edu, or give us a call at 208-282-3372. And also, if you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. This is our community podcast. This is how we get information like the book club out into our community, and we would appreciate it if you would share us out with others. Thank you so much, and be safe out there.